Hey folks, my name's Paul and I'm keen to talk to you about what's changed in iOS 15 for SwiftUI. I'm sorry I'm a bit late, I had to reboot my machine because Xcode and the simulator is continually having problems with sound on my Mac. And it now happens also in the Canvas window, which is brilliant. So hopefully you're seeing this and hearing this with no actual problems because honestly, this sound could go wrong at any point because that's just how Xcode rolls apparently. If you do hear sound problems, let me know and I'll do my best to correct it. Otherwise, we can just kind of fly on and start investigating all things that have changed along the way. I am reading the comments on my screen, so if you do hit sound problems, let me know, and I can try and restart the stream, I guess, and hope for the best. Otherwise, we'll have to kind of see how we get on. Yeah, it's potluck. It's going to catch fire at some point. We'll see. That's just because it's all Xcode Beta 1. I'm going to get the bad luck out of the way now by asking my Mac to build and launch the simulator with just hello world. And if it's going to go wrong, this is where it's going to go wrong. So I'll press Command R and let it do its thing, launching the simulator. And if it's going to catch fire, it'll be when it's doing this. So hopefully we'll see. I had to restart Xcode and restart my entire Mac to clear the sound problems. And I don't know why. And it seems to have, the plague seems to have spread. It used to be a simulator only, and now it's a simulator plus Xcode canvas, which is great. I mean, just, yeah, thanks for that, Apple. Anyway, it's beta 1. It's going to get better, I'm sure. I should say, while it's catching fire on my screen right now, Apple have launched a huge amount of stuff today. Massive new APIs, iOS 15, macOS 12, and similar. There's stacks of new SwiftUIs I have to try out there. And I hope you're all feeling excited. You're all feeling good. You're all feeling great. This has been a very positive update for Apple. So hopefully you are grateful to the Apple teams who worked so very, very hard over the last year, mostly from home, to build this stuff for us. So actually last year, some of the SwiftUI team came to this live stream last year, sort of silently lurking in the corner. And if that's you, if you are here right now, SwiftUI team, much love. You worked so hard. Thank you so much. You've done a great job. Anyway, no one is screaming about bad audio in the chat window, so I'm going to assume the audio is still okay. So I can plow onwards and kind of hope for the best. So anyway, Oscar asked, am I on Monterey? No, I am not on Monterey. I don't want things to catch fire that badly. Okay, so a number of things have changed with UI this year. I want to try and fly through as many as I can in this stream. If you have questions or discoveries of your own, or want to provide corrections of what I'm doing as I go, let me know. I'm figuring things out too, like you, so let's explore together. There's a number of small things are enabled by Swift 5.5, which is a huge, huge, huge release. Go and check out Swift 5.5, what's new on my site, because there's stacks of example code there. But it's a lot of little things. For example, if you're sick of typing very, very long names to get your styles of stuff, that's been really shortened down thanks to the way Swift 5.5 works. For example, if I had a list of stuff, let's say a list of the numbers 1 to 51, number coming in, let's just do that and do text. Let's do $0 like that. If this is a sidebar list style, you might have said previously, list style here is going to be list style, sidebar list style, or rounded button list style and similar. And now actually you can just say list style dot sidebar and save yourself so much typing. Similarly, inset group, plain, and similar, they're all there waiting for us in a much, much shorter way. And this applies anywhere where you would have used those very long old style titles. For example, if you wanted to say, make a text field with a rounded border effect, you might have said something like at state private var name is Tim. Obviously, Tim's a great name. I had something like VStack alignment of leading, then text field, enter your name with text bound to $text. Again, before you'd have had text field style, rounded border text field style like that, and it was all very repetitive. Swift 5.5 was away with that. You can just how to say rounded border, which is so much nicer. And it was like that in the original Swift UI beta for like 2019, and it was removed removed quickly because it took a lot of hacks to make it happen, and now it's built into Swift directly to work correctly, which is great. Actually, in this case, you can see I've got text field with rounded border, which is great. But you can also now say I want to have a submit label as well. And that's going to control the way the done button looks. Because before it was always, return, I think it was. And now you can say submit label, something else. Join, next, return, search, continue, done, go, or route, or send. And it just changes the way the button looks. And that's, UIKit 2, I want to say, but it's now in SwiftUI 3. That's the main thing. We can now use it everywhere and have let's do join like that, and it works much nicer. Okay, that's little API. Sorry, my dogs have come in. That's little API cleanup, which is great. There's other things. For example, you can now have hash if for postfix expressions, member expressions even. Sorry, you could say something like, I want to have. Yes, I do see you, dog. It's like, what is it in the UK? 3:45 in the morning in the UK. You should be in bed. So you can do things, for example, like, come on, quick shot. There you go. I've got off to bed. You could say things, with a hash, if OS is iOS, then do something, otherwise don't. And that's, again, a Swift 5.5 feature. It was Matt Ricketson and someone else put that through for Swift 5.5. And it's just a nicer way of customizing the way your code works in different OSs and other platform operations like that. Right, clear off. Go on. Text should be named. Yes, sorry. There you go. So this is a nicer way of doing platform customizations and other similar kinds of thing with a compiler, which is great. Okay, that's the easy stuff. Let's look at some more interesting stuff. For example, let's say we want to have a list of content doing stuff, and this is a standard thing you want to have, a list of information, and you want to pull to refresh and see more information. Again, it's been built into UIKit for a long time, but now it's available in SwiftUI as well with the Refreshable Modifier. So you can now say this list here is refreshable, and SwiftUI will automatically take care of pull to refresh, calling a function of your choosing, waiting for that function to complete, and then hiding the refresh indicator. It works really nicely. And so in a really trivial example, you might say there's a navigation view here, and I'll do a list of 1 to 100 with a row coming in, and then text row is row like that, and then attach the new refreshable modifier here and say this thing should be refreshed, and when it is refreshed, hello other dog. Sorry, 2 dogs, 2 treats, 2 straws. Come on, quick shot. Come on. No, you had a treat already. Clear off. You had one already. Hungry dogs. When this refresh, now let's just do print, do your refresh work here, like that. And now when you pull down to refresh, it will correctly show a spinner and then hide it away again. I'll try and run it back on the simulator. Let's press my audio chances slightly higher. And I pull to refresh, there we go. There's a spinner, and there's my thing being triggered. And it only triggers when you do pull far enough, like that. Now, obviously, in practice, you're going to want to do actual work here. This is a great place to do networking, for example, to fetch information. And helpfully, Refreshable uses another new Swift 5.5 feature, which is async await. You can go ahead and call asynchronous functions here, await for them to return, and then use that value somehow. So for example, we might say, I want to go and fetch information from the web, some JSON from a server somewhere, parse it, and put it onto the screen. And we can walk through a working example of that here. We can say something like, let's say there's a news item, which is decodable, so it can come from JSON, and identifiable, so we can loop over it in SwiftUI land. This thing has an ID integer and a title string, oops, daisy, string, and a strap string, some description below it. And then we could say inside our content view, there is one built-in news item. I'll say at state private var news is an array of news item with, let's do ID 0, title Want the latest news? Want the latest news? Question mark, and then strap. Pull to refresh. So one sort of built-in news item we'll work with like that. And then what we want to say really is inside our list, go over and show all those news items one by one in the rows of data. So I might say, go over our news here, list of news, bring one item in each time, and then lay that out somehow on the screen. For example, I might say there is, item in, I might say there's a VStack with alignment of leading. Let's show the item's title using font headline. Then we'll do below that text item.strap with foreground color secondary, like that. So we're showing the news information that was loaded from the web somehow. Now, obviously, what we want to do is aside this refreshable modifier, do the actual work of fetching JSON from the web, decoding it somehow, and showing it in our news array. And async await makes this beautiful because, of course, it's here in Refreshable. It's also in Foundation, which means URL session supports it already. So we can actually say something like this. A do block to catch any kind of error. First things, let's make our URL we're going to fetch. Now, I've got one of these already. I'll do let URL is a URL with a string. Let's get this right. https://hackingwithswift.com/samples/news-1.json. I'll happily force unwrap that. That's my little example JSON URL. I think that should be some valid JSON, all being well. This is not going to work very well. That's my data, my URL there. I can then load that into some data and optionally a response as well, but I don't care about the response here, so I'll ditch the response. So I'll say let data underscore, don't care about response, equals, this is the new syntax here, try waiting for some work to happen. What work? Well, URL session dot shared dot data task, and we want the new option here, data task from a URL. And just pass that in with no delegate. It'll go off, fetch it back for you and say, here's your data, here's the response. And if it throws any errors, then you can catch it down here. Whoops, something went wrong. What do you want to do? In our case, we might just say, make news an empty array, for example. So at this point, it has asynchronously gone ahead and fetched the data for us and downloaded it, and we can now go ahead and decode it. We could say news is try JSON decoder.decode an array of news item.self from that data, like that. Oh, Kurt Clifton's here. Kurt was, I think, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings here, my favorite speaker from WWDC 20. He was so happy to be there, and he was great on the screen, and I'm really great to see him work so well. So yes, Kurt is saying that I may need to decorate items in my list with ID something or other down the way, and I'm guessing he's suggesting something like .id here with item.id, like that. I'm guessing that's what he means. If not, Kurt, by all means, please correct me. And let's see how this is going to work. Let's find out. I'll go ahead and give that a try. It seems to build. Let's find out if it works correctly. Have I muffed up the JSON decoding it along the way? Pull to refresh. It's thinking. Oh, worked first time. Brilliant. So we can get pull to refresh, fetching things via URL session, bang, out of the box. It works brilliantly. So it's so nice. Where I'm going to worry about, hide the spinner, show the spinner, that's all handled for us. It'll go away automatically where we have our await call here. When this work here finishes, fine, it'll then go ahead and hide the spinner for us automatically. It's really, really nice. Okay, so we get pull to refresh, but we also get another really highly requested feature, which is an equivalent to UI search bar. This works really nicely because there's another new simple modifier to work with. Let me go ahead and clear up our code here a little bit, otherwise we'll end up with a lot of mess in our code. Let's get rid of all this guff. Boom. Okay. There's a new modifier called Searchable, and this lets us place a search bar directly into our navigation view somehow, and watch its text or provide suggestions and more. It's really, really nice and super simple in its easiest form. And actually, in its simplest form, you can just go ahead and say, search for some kind of text. And there's no list required here, nothing else. Just show me a search bar and I'll do the rest, whatever it happens to be. So you might say there is an @state private var search text is an empty string. Then in our navigation view, we'll do text. Let's do searching for search text. Oops, crazy. That back, there we go. Search text. And then we'll do searchable. And this thing wants to know what to bind its text string to. We'll use $search text, which means as they type into the search bar, equivalent, whatever they call it nowadays, update that search text property with our value. Now we'll have our navigation title below, navigation title below saying searchable example, like that. And we're going to get a UI search bar equivalent out of the box. It works really, really nicely for these simple use cases. So you hopefully see here, boom, there's a search box. Go ahead and type the stuff. Hello world. Great. So it works brilliantly for simple examples, but there's actually obviously lots more. You know, if you want to have a list of stuff happening here, for example, you might say, I want to have a list of names. Let's do, let names is an array of who spoke today. Holly spoke today. And Rhonda, she was great doing Xcode in the cloud. Xcode Cloud? Xcode Plus, what they call it these days. And Ted was there, of course. Ted was good too. He didn't get to teleport, mind you, which is a real shame. So we have a list of names to work through, and we can now say, I want to show those names in a list somehow. And I may have to actually just fire up the studio for YouTube and watch out for people being idiots on the thing. Actually, there's a button right here. I can press ban. Brilliant. There's a ban button right there in this button on my screen, which you can't see, which I can see in Ecamm Live. Cool, even better. Ta-ra, Spencer McKee. Anyway, where was I? Oh, yes, lists of stuff. We can make lists of stuff. We could say, I want to have a list of stuff. Let's do a list. And inside our list, I want to have the names we're showing on the screen filtered somehow. So I might say something like, give me the search results as an array of strings. And if our search text is empty, we haven't searched for anything in our text, we'll return names. And then, oops daisy, if it's not empty, we'll return names.filter where each item contains their search text. So we can filter that names array somehow by just typing, HON to get Rhonda, for example. Does it contain the search text? Case insensitive you could do, of course, but you get the idea. You can do a search however you want to. Now, inside our list, we want to go over those values somehow and say something like, for each of those search results, identifying by self, give me a name coming in, and I'll say there's a navigation link with destination of text that name. Whoops, easy, there we go. And then text name. So it should, in theory, show us Holly, Rhonda, Ted. And tapping one of those will show a detail screen with Holly or Rhonda or Ted. Pranav, what's your typing speed? I've got no idea. Bad when I'm trying to talk and stream at the same time. Sorry. I apologize for the hilarious typos. I'm trying to think and talk and stuff. Anyway, so there you go. Rhonda and Ted and similar are all there, which is great. But of course, what we really want to do is have a way to search through these things to find examples of information. So we might say that our list has a searchable binding with a text bound to search text like last time, and a navigation title of contacts. So now we're going to search on that search text field, and as that changes, it'll refresh search results automatically and match the ones we care about. If I just pull down a little bit, there we go. Boom. So I can now search for capital H. Well, thanks for that. It's SwiftUI. So HOL. There we go. So it does work correctly. So you get filtering really nice and quickly, which is fantastic. And I saw by default to get that sort of iOS default behavior of the search thing scrolling around with the bar automatically, so it'll go away until they sort of pull down a little bit from the top. It behaves just like a natural iOS UI search bar. Presumably it is an iOS UI search bar. I haven't checked, but it probably is. Kurt, is it one? Let's find out later on. Anyway, for more advanced uses, you can actually ask this thing to provide suggestions as well. You could say, here are things I think should match somehow. And then if you want to, provide completions for those search things as well, to save them typing the rest of Holly's name, for example, even though it's only 5 letters in this case. And this is done by passing a function into Searchable as its other parameter that will return some kind of view full of your suggestions, whatever you want to do. And then if you want to, you can then say each one of these things has a search completion. So tapping on it will complete the search automatically. And so we already have our names, Holly, Rhonda, Ted. We already have our list. I'm going to modify our searchable text modifier here so that we loop over our search results. And for each one of these things, we'll say, are you looking for Holly? Are you looking for Rhonda? Are you looking for Ted? As they type. And we'll make it complete that name, so I can just press on one to see Holly immediately. So it's a slightly faster way of working. Obviously, the names are quite short here, but obviously for longer stuff with more complex matching, then you get the idea. So I'll say, for each search results, again with ID of \self. I'll do result in. We'll do text, are you looking for, and then that search result. So are you looking for Holly? Are you looking for Ted? Are you looking for Rhonda? And similar. But I'm also going to add to this the search completion of the name I want to complete when it's tapped. So I want to complete this thing with their name. So I'll just do result. Kurt's saying that there's going to be a great talk on this tomorrow by Harry Lane. Who's Harry Lane? I haven't met Harry Lane before. Anyway, I've met everybody, of course. It works on all platforms. Yes, love it. In fact, there's more on that later on. The way action sheets and alerts have been redesigned work much nicer now with other platforms and stuff. Anyway, I'll press Command R. Let's find out. And let's see if we can do a little completion of stuff here. So I'll just sort of pull down and type. There we go. My completions are there. I'll do H. And now it's just Holly there. Press on that one, and it completes Holly for me. So it's completing the search thing automatically and giving the results I had before. So it's a really nice, really simple way to do a searching system. It's UI search controller just dramatically simplified with all the same power too. So it's great. And actually, I'm looking forward to this. If this works well on macOS, I haven't tried it yet, but this was really, really hard to do on macOS before. Apple's sample code for this was nightmarishly complex. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing if that works beautifully in macOS. There are more changes to the list. Lots of good new things to the list. For example, you can now say, oh, I've got 2 dislikes. I'm doing my best, folks. I'm trying my best. It's like 2 minutes past 8 on keynote day. Thanks for the dislikes. Anyway, there's a new way where you can finally add swipe actions to your list rows to control which buttons appear on those rows. You can have more than one if you want to, color them, put them on left and right if you want to. It's really, really flexible. For example, let's do a simple one first. I'll say that we have a list again. Let's get rid of Searchable entirely. Let's get rid of all this junk up here. Goodbye. And let's do... Hey, thanks for the bonus likes, folks. Kind of offsets the dislikes a little bit. Thank you so much. Best pals. Anyway, there's the title. Let's do swipe actions and then kill all this stuff. 3 dislikes. Yeah, that's all right. Some folks do find me annoying, and that's just life. You know, I had someone at iOS Dev Happy Hour last time say to my face, I find your voice annoying. Like, cool, dude. I don't come around to your house and have a go at you at your workplace, do I? Anyway, let's focus on the job at hand here. Search results. Let's get rid of the stuff here. It's all junk. Let's put in some static examples here of rows in our list. I might say there's pepperoni pizza. And then below it, I will do pizza with pineapple, like that. Now, I want to have a swipe action for this row here. So I'll just do the new swipe actions modifier, like this. And I'll say there's a button called order. And when that's done, I'm going to print awesome. And I'll tint this thing in green. So it's nice and obvious. It's a good thing to want to have. Pizza with pineapple, I'm going to say it has swipe actions. And this time my button's going to be burn. And then print right on. And then tint that in red. No one wants that. Anyway, we have now added 2 swipe actions to these static list things here. So I'll press Command R to build and run my code and see how this looks. So I can swipe here, and there's order, and swipe here to get burn. And it works brilliantly. I mean, it's really, really easy to do. And in fact, you'll see you can even go all the way across to trigger the whole action immediately by sort of a long swipe. That's the default behavior. I would say these things use the built-in buttons now from SwiftUI, and that occurs in other places too. And so in the case of burn the pizza with pineapple, for example, I should say it's my eldest daughter's favorite pizza, so I can't complain too much. In the case of that one, rather than just doing a tint in red, what you can do instead is say button burn, and then do the role is destructive, and give SwiftUI the extra context here of what your button's trying to do, and let it take care of it appropriately. So I'll press Command R on that. I said it's a destroying kind of button, and we still get it in red, because it knows what that means. So we're giving it the extra context. And you'll see this in other places too as we progress through the API changes. It's a good way to tell SwiftUI what this button's trying to do. And you can also say there's a role for cancel as well, for example, if you want that kind of thing. Anyway, as you've seen, you can swipe all the way across to trigger the action immediately. You won't always want that, because sometimes it's dangerous, right? For example, the Messages app for your device, you can't just delete people by accident. You've got to sort of swipe across, then tap the button. And you can also have, of course, more than one button in there, potentially on either side. So you can really stack it up as much as you want to. So let's work through an example of this. We'll say that I have an array of friends, and I'll say there is Antoine, there's Baz, there's Kurt, there's Dave, and there's Erica. And in our list down here, we're going to go ahead and loop over all these friends, and we'll say there's a for each friends using ID of \self with a friend coming in. Inside here, I'll just show the friend's name, text friend, but then attach swipe actions to this. I'm going to say allows a full swipe is false. Do not trigger this with just swiping all the way across. Otherwise, I can do things by accident. And inside here, I might say I want a button, which is going to print muting this conversation. And the label for that's going to be a label with mute and system image. Let me get this right. bell.slash.fill, I think. And then I'll tint that in indigo. Beautiful new color. And then we'll have another button inside the same swipe action, this time with the role of destructive. So it's quite clear it's a bad thing. And then we'll say deleting this conversation. Label will be delete this time. And we'll do trash.fill. So I've got two things here, and it's complaining. It allows full swipe. Sorry. Complaining. Tiny typo, it's easily fixed. I'll press Command R and build and run it, see how it looks. We should now get all our friends here. I'm going to swipe across and see both our controls. Let's make one of these have a different color because it is destructive. Don't be indigo for destructive, please. It's a bad idea. Let's try again, see if it's better. There we go. And I can no longer swipe all the way across and get delete or accidental action. It's a bad idea having that, so that works better. So you can see swipe actions work brilliantly. And you'd also see that SwiftUI is being clever here. It understands the context of this button. It's a bad idea to have delete or mute right there in the UI. And so it basically switches across to an icon-only label style, showing just bell/fill and trash fill automatically. So it's reading the context for us, which is really, really nice. I believe it will still use the label's text for voiceover. So it will say mute and delete correctly, which is what we want, really. If you want to, of course, you can have swipe action on both sides. You know, go one way for one thing, other way for the other thing, for example. And so we could make like a little numpty calculator. We could say something like private var total is 0. And then in our code down here, will go away. I'm going to say there's a for each here, counting over 1 to 100 with a number coming in. And inside here, I'll place a text of that number with a swipe action. And this one's going to have an edge of dot leading. So left edge and left right languages like English, or right edge and right left languages. So for the leading one, I'll say button total plus equals I. Add that to our total with the label of label add I, and the system image of plus dot circle, you want to say, I think it is. And then I want to have on the trailing side as well, so I'll just do another swipe action. Same modifier, have two back to back. One leading, one trailing. I will subtract that time around. I'll have subtract I, and I'll do not plus dot circle, but minus dot circle. And in theory, I can add that to our title somewhere. Let's do total is total. And we've got ourselves not quite James Thompson threatening, but a calculator nonetheless. Let's find out. So here's 1. I can swipe that way, add 4, subtract 6, add 8, add 10, subtract whatever that was, 7. So yeah, there you go. An instant calculator in a really, really simple way. Next stop, add, exploding bananas just like James would do. Okay, so lists are a lovely upgrade. Lists are much, much more nice on iOS now, and I'm sure also in macOS and other platforms too. Another sorely missed feature that has come now to SwiftUI is an equivalent for UI visual effect view, and this is just brilliant. It's just brilliant. I mean, there's so many brilliant things this year around. I get that, but this is particularly good because UI visual effect view took a bit of futzing around, make it exactly right. SwiftUI kind of just goes, nope, let's make this much, much simpler, and it raises nearly all the API. You use ZStack or ZStack if you happen to be Kurt, backed up by the background modifier we all know and love, and it will do most of the work for us because there's a new set of materials we can apply to control the way our background and our overlay stuff interact. It's really, really nice. Anyway, let's go ahead and give it a try. Let's say I want to get rid of all this junk. Goodbye. Goodbye. I already have a picture, by the way, in my asset catalog of Singapore. This is taken in Changi Airport. I forget what it is. Changi Airport, I think it is. Of their amazing monorail indoor rain system thing. Anyway, we can say there's a Z stack with that image of Singapore in there. Singapore even, Hudson, come on. And inside there will be the text of visit Singapore. And I'll put some padding around that. Now I really want this thing to appear against the Z stack in a nice, clear way. So I'll press play on this and we'll see how it looks. And right now it'll be pretty hard to read because that's just my life. Boom, you can barely see that, it's just useless. Fortunately, we can now say, after applying padding, I want to add a background using the regular material. Look at that example there. A material that's somewhat translucent. Love it. DevPubs have worked really, really hard this year. I am so happy for them. They've worked really, really hard. It's great. Anyway, boom. We now get the natural dimming of our content. It's overlaying it correctly. A little bit of a glass effect behind it. You can now say I want to have maybe thin material or ultra thin material to adjust the way, the amount of effect that goes on there, how much you can see through it. So it's like even more visible now, more of the green color coming through. You could do, let's do ultra thin material. So it's even thinner material to get much more content coming through. There we go. So you get a lovely glass effect going on there. Hey, someone here from Singapore. Singapore's lovely. This place is like standing in front of Star Trek. It's just amazing. This whole airport is just astonishing. Anyway, there's a whole set, 5 to choose from: ultra thin, thin, regular, thick, and ultra thick, depending how much you want to shine through. And I think by default, I mean that's black, basically black text. But I think if you were to say, I want to have a foreground color even of secondary, you get some translucency and some vibrancy coming through as well. So the text kind of pops out a little bit like that. So the text also has a bit of the color coming through. It looks really, really nice. And so it's super simple. If you use Visual Effect View in UIKit, it's much, much harder. than this. So, again, round of applause, SwiftUI team. You've done an amazing chef's kiss job. Well done. Okay, but you ain't seen nothing yet because, like, almost day one of SwiftUI, I said, why can't it do this thing? And now it can. And it's brilliant because in iOS 15, SwiftUI now has a dedicated async image, which will load an image from a URL on a server somewhere and display it, when it loads. And its simplest form, you would just say async image with a URL. And I'll just do, oops daisy, URL of string. I hope I don't get this wrong too much. https://www.hackingwithswift.com/img/paul.ping. Pictures of me. Let's find out if that works. Let's find out. Did I screw that up already? No. Boom. There we go. Why using iPod Touch? I don't know. It's just a default option in Xcode. It doesn't really matter. It works the same on all these devices. Okay. There's some things you have to know about using async image. Because, first up, I'm really glad they did this. It takes an optional URL. So you haven't got to put, force unwrap your URL here. That would have been so ugly to have. If you have a bad URL, it'll just show a placeholder for you automatically. You probably saw it when it was loading. It's really quite brief. You see the sort of gray box appear. It's very light. It is there, and now it loads in. I don't know why that appears in a stream. But you see a gray box while it's loading. That's what you'd see if you have a bad URL. That gray box wouldn't go away to stay there the entire time. Similarly, for a good URL, but user is offline or the image doesn't exist or errors, that gray box will also stay. That's the placeholder for your image appearing. And so that's what's going to appear. Now, if you think about it, it makes sense that SwiftUI has no idea how big that picture is going to be. It doesn't know, happens to be that sort of square picture of me in it's Paris speaking on stage. Yeah, check me out. It's me speaking on a stage in Paris. And it doesn't know it's that big. And so what happens is it allocates all the space. It's got this flexible width and height. It'll grow to fill all available space, which is not ideal. And so it'll jump around as it loads. And you can kind of see this in action if you said something like, I want a VStack with my async image, and then text hello world below that. You'll see it jump around a little bit now. So it's hello world, it loads, and boom, hello world moves up to the middle because it now knows the correct size of the picture. Brett asks, can you have a custom placeholder? Yes, you can. Brett, I'll show you in a second. Give me a chance. Anyway, so you can see it's jumping around because it doesn't understand how big the picture is going to be. Now, you might think, oh, that's all right. That's easy. I will just attach a frame to my async image. I'll say this thing has a frame width of, I don't know, 128, height 128. And I mean, it kind of works. It might be vaguely what you want, but it's probably not really what you want. And so you can see it works correctly there because the size is about what I expect it to be. But if I'd forced a size of 64, for example, so let's say the exact size that's smaller than the image is going to be, it'll look fine when it's loading, and jump in too big. Because we've set the frame for the async image, not for the resulting image it's going to load. And so you really want to control that. And you can do this by passing extra functions in. You can say, actually, when the image is loaded, here's what you should do with it. And also, here's my custom placeholder, whatever you want that to be. For example, we might say that our async image here loads my URL like last time, but when the image comes in, here's what I want to do. And this thing here, this is the real SwiftUI image. Not async image, the actual original image loaded, ready for us to work with. So I could say, use image.resizable. Make it scale up and down correctly for display. There is no resizable modifier on async image, only on images directly. I could then say, I want a placeholder. And this could be whatever you want to be. I could say, color.red, just show the color red. And then make that whole thing now fit a frame of my choosing. I'll do width 128, height 128. And then, clip it somehow, clip shape with rounded rectangle, corner radius 25. So we're now having a custom placeholder of red, which is there. Boom. And we're making our image and size resize correctly as much as we want to. It'll adapt because it's resizable. So what matters now is we're giving instructions to the async image. Here's how to display your frame and your clip shape, but also the resulting SwiftUI image that gets loaded as well. That should be resizable to fit inside the async image as well. So now I'll say be smaller, and it should also work just as well. Like that. Which didn't work before, you see, because you couldn't do that. By default, it'll just occupy its natural space. Now, if you want to know this, if you happen to have extra information, by default, async image assumes your images are 1x scale. So, you know, iPhone from a decade ago, quite frankly. If you happen to know I've got 1x, 2x, 3x assets, and you load in a 3x to your device, whatever you want to, you can pass that in. You could say, load this URL at a scale of 3, for example, for your Retina HD displays. Okay, async image works. And it's a lovely, lovely improvement for SwiftUI. It works out of the box, it's brilliant. But there's another helpful, I mean, people are going to cry when they see this. There's another helpful change that was really, really hard to do before. In fact, you couldn't do it with SwiftUI, I had to dig down to UIKit before. And now it's native inside SwiftUI, which is, and I sound bad, I say bad saying this because it sounds obvious, it's dismissing the keyboard, folks. And also controlling the way you move around the focus of text fields, because this used to be possible in SwiftUI for 14 and 13 only by calling down to UIKit and saying, you know, force resign the first responder for the whole application. And now it's so much nicer. I mean, it's beautiful, the change they've made. It's bringing across the tvOS stuff. And this works really well if you're having, you know, number pad where there's no obvious dismiss button to get rid of the keyboard. Now you can. It works really well. And so this is done by firstly saying, here's my focus state. This might be as simple as a Boolean. We can do custom stuff if you want to. And when it's true, focus my thing. When it's not, unfocus it. And of course, unfocused will also hide the keyboard because there's no requirement for it anymore. And so you can, let's start with something real simple. I'm going to say we have some text, private var, private, come on Hudson, you can do it, private, there we go. Name is an empty string, and focus state, private var, name is focused, and I'll set this to be false by default, so there's no focus for our text field. And then, oh sorry, this should be bool, sorry, like that, there we go. Now in our body, I'm going to say we have a vstack of stuff, and then text field, let's do, sorry, text field, not text field style. There we go. Enter your name. And this will be bound to $name, like that. Say that it should be focused when name is focused as true. So when this is true, focus as text field. When it's false, unfocused text field. You know, also hiding and resigning the keyboard at the same time. But we can now also add a button below saying, you know, submit to log in or something, and force this to say name is focused equals false. Stop focusing our text field, which of course is basically resign first responder in UIKit. So I'll press Command R to build and run my code. Now being well, I can type into my text field. I might have to show the keyboard first. Let's press show keyboard. There we go. Enter your name, B-O-B, and then submit. Boom. And it hides the keyboard automatically. Now, obviously, and that's a very simple example, but for more advanced examples, you can actually make whole forms to track an optional enum. Work your way through the fields. Now focus this one. Now focus this one. Now we're done. Log in. And so we might say we have an enum up here called field. Which of our form fields is currently selected? I'll do first name. Oops, Daisy, not that one. First name. I'll do last name. Come on, Xcode, and email address. Like that. So the 3 form fields we're going to have, and I'll have various fields for this. So let's just copy and paste this a few times. Let's say first name is an empty string, last name, empty string, and email address, empty string. Now this time, it's not a Boolean. I don't have Boolean true, false, true, false. That'd be a mess to handle. Instead, I want to say, what is the focused field? An optional one of our enum cases. And it's optional, of course, because nothing can be focused. When you first land on the screen, there's nothing focused. So what is our focused field? So we can now say down here, enter your first name. This is bound to, I'll do first name here. This thing should be focused based on the value of focused field. Look for that field, watch it. And the value of this one is equals first name. So when focused field is equal to first name, this text field here is focused. That's what we're saying. Now, if you want to be particularly nice, you should now say something like, text content type is given name. Let's do a submit label of next. Go to the next field. I'll copy and paste a few times. Enter your first name, enter your last name, family name, like that. Then we'll do enter your email address. Let's do email address here and here and here. And then for the last one, it's not next anymore. We're ready to join our chat channel. We'll say it's join. So go ahead and join. And now for the interesting stuff. Well, you don't want to have a submit button anymore. That's too simple. We want to replace this with a new way of tracking values changing over time. And that is called onSubmit. When a value has been submitted, what do you want to do? In our case, we want to figure out where we are currently and move to the next form field. So I might say switch on focused field. If we are currently the first name, now please focus last name. If we are in last name currently, now please focus email address. And if we are currently email address, then we'll do print joining chat room or something like that. So we can work our way through a form and then submit the end result to go and do something. Now Apple makes something really, really clear, so I'll repeat it to you here. Do not use the same focused binding, email address or last name or first name for two things. Don't do that, that's a bad idea. Let's press Command R to build and run our code and see how it looks. Oops, I've got an error here. Am I missing a case? Really? Pitch focused field? Oh, yeah, none. We need none. Let's do none here, actually. The default is, of course, everything else at this point. Let's do that. Okay. So, is it going to build? It's thinking about it. No, it's not building. It's erroring down here. Oops, I'm missing a brace there. My switch. Okay, let's find out how this works. So I'll do first name, B-O-B, sorry, short names. Next, Bob Lee, another nice surname there. And then next, and it goes blue for join now. Email address, I can't type here. Where's my email address thing? You're an email address, aren't you? You should be showing me the email address entry thing. At J dot, good grief, it's slow to type, com. Okay, join. And boom, we get join in chat room down here. Brilliant. So we can work our way through a series of form fields, focusing as much as we want to, and then do something when we're finished, which is great. So it's getting better and better and better. I know it's simple change, but it's done in such an elegant way. And that's why I'm glad they waited. They're going to put in, just resign as a quick hack, call an ID. They didn't. They thought about it and planned it and made something really, really beautiful, which is fantastic. Anyway, moving on. There's more things you can do. There's a new way now, a nice easy way, to handle badges. Now, badges appear in traditionally tab views. Let me just clear up some of this junk. Go away, go away, go away. They appear traditionally in tab views. So you might have said something like a tab here. So let's do tab view. I'll have a simple tab saying text, your home screen goes here. That with a tab item using a label of home, and then system image is house. And that's going to show a tab view at the bottom of the screen with home and a house. And when we press that, it'll show a home screen like that. Now, a badge is traditionally used to put something over this to highlight users that this is something interesting happening here. For example, number of unread messages. And this is really, really simple in iOS 15. You just now just say, my tab item is that thing. I have a badge with 5 on it. That's it. That's it. So honestly, it's so simple. You'll now see a little sort of like a measles style effect, a little thing hovering it saying 5. It works brilliantly. And you can do what you like. I said there are options here to do, text and similar. It's optional, down to you. And it's localized as well, which is even better. This thing also works with lists. You can actually recreate a sort of like settings style screen where thing appears on the left and then detail appears on the right, a badge on the right. You could set something like let's do a list. And if you're doing settings, you'll it's things like text is Wi-Fi and then text is Bluetooth. And in settings, they have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth on the left. On the right, you can say something like your Wi-Fi name, which one you made to right now. So I might say I'm on LAN Solo and badge on. And that's it. You get this great layout completely for almost no code. It's just absolutely wonderful. Boom. Just like in the settings app. So badges are brilliant and they're really simple to use and they just help, again, make your UI fit in with the rest of Apple's designs. There's some changes for sheets. You can now say when you're showing a sheet, actually, this thing shouldn't be swiped to dismiss. Now, we had full screen cover last year to show a whole screen covering the main view, but this is different. This is a screen that is obviously an overlapping screen, but can't be swiped away. And you can control this by saying, what is the interactive dismiss disabled setting for this sheet? And this is important for places like, show some information, don't let them go away till they've made a choice. Whatever that might be, make sure they've made that choice and then they can swipe to dismiss. So please accept our copious amounts of terms and conditions, for example. That kind of thing is a great way to dismiss, only when you're absolutely ready. For example, you might say, I have a sheet. I'll call it example sheet. Example sheet, which is a view. This thing has to have an environment property of presentation mode. So we can dismiss ourselves when we're ready. Like this. And I might say there's a body in here and a VStack with text saying this is my sheet view. And the button will be dismiss. And action will be close. And that will be a method down here called close, which will be presentation mode, wrap value.dismiss. And we're going to make this thing not swipe to dismiss. So I'll say actually interactive dismiss is disabled. Do not let them swipe away to get rid of this thing. And when it comes to showing that in our content view down here, I might say at state private var showing sheet equals false. In our body, I might say the button saying show sheet with toggle sheet, showing sheet dot toggle, even spoonerisms. I'll do a sheet with is presented. Presented is, come on keyboard, you can do it. Presented showing sheet. And the content will be example sheet.init. So when you press the button, show the sheet. But don't let them get rid of the sheet by swiping down. They've got to press the button to dismiss. Let's try and run that back. I press show sheet. And now I cannot pull down to dismiss this thing. I've got to press dismiss. Jeff asks, are there any size or presentation options for sheets beyond this? I haven't seen any. I really want to see form sheet from UIKit, because that's really, really nice on iPad. I haven't seen that yet. If someone from SwiftUI is watching and they know of a form sheet equivalent, now's a good time to say so. I'd love to know. Now, actually, this thing takes a binding to a Boolean if you want to customize it on the fly. So you might have said something like, in our example sheet, have they accepted our terms? And it's false by default, right? And so in our VStack, I can now say there's text with, terms and conditions in a font of title and text. Lots of legalese here, like that. And then a toggle, I'll just do accept, like that, and bind the is on state of that to be terms accepted. I'll ditch my dismiss button because now add a bit of padding around this. And we'll say dismiss disabled with not terms accepted. Like that. Oops, var. Yeah, I knew that. var. Let's press Command R to build and run. And show sheet. So I can't swipe to dismiss, I accept the conditions, and now I can swipe to dismiss. So you can bind to that if you want to. It's down to you. It's really flexible and it works brilliantly. Mark Moykins. Hey Mark, how are you doing? Is there a way of making the background semi-transparent? I haven't seen that. That used to, I remember iOS 3.2, a long time ago, iOS 4 maybe. You could do translucent form sheet modals, and it then spontaneously broke in a future version. I'm not sure it was intentional, but you could do it. So anyway, I don't think you can as the answer. At least not that I know of. Okay, let's do something real easy, because I've done a few harder things right now. So something real simple. This one is just wonderful. Absolutely wild. Brace yourself for this one, folks. SwiftUI now has built-in support for Markdown in iOS 15, and you get bold, italics, links, strike through, you name it. It just works. So it feels almost stupid saying it because it's basically free. It just works out of the box. You just say text and then some Markdown, and it just works. So I could say I want to have a VStack here with text. This is regular text. Then text. I'm going to do this is ** bold text, because that's italic. That's a bold in Markdown. Or text. This is * italic * text. I mean, it's just basically pure Markdown. This is ** bold italic * text. Text. What is it? It's like tilde strike through example tilde or text. Monospaced works too. And even, I mean, this is wonderful, even links. So I'm going to visit Apple, click here, https://apple.com, like that. In theory, all three of those will just work out of the box. Let's find out. Boom, look at that. Everything just works like regular Markdown. I can just click on, visit Apple, and it will launch apple.com in Safari. It's absolutely brilliant. So I don't know honestly how they can make that any easier, because it honestly works out of the box, which is great. One thing I would say, and this might change in the future perhaps, images don't work, which is a shame, because that'd be great to pull things in from your asset catalog directly. So yeah, it doesn't work just yet, which is a real shame. Also, and it's a bit of an annoyance, they can obviously do links inside text these days, but I don't think still today you can put a link, like a link struct inside text using string interpolation. That's really missing. Anyway, boom, Markdown just works, which is great. Next up, I already showed you button roles, because button roles, destructive or cancel, they matter. And it's important because A, it makes our other APIs simpler. You've seen how they work otherwise, but they've also refactored the way, or rewritten the way, alert and action sheets work. And Kurt's just saying DevPubs crush it this year, and they did. DevPubs did a really great job this year. Well done. Comprehensive documentation for SwiftUI. Dark mode now worked out of the box. There's screenshots galore. They've done a really, really good job. Thank you so much, DevPubs. Well done. Anyway, buttons and roles. And this matters because they've changed the way alerts work. Because you used to be able to say as an alert struct and an action sheet struct and similar to handle alerts and action sheets. And that's all gone away now. They've simplified it dramatically and made it much more standard. They're using regular buttons everywhere. And as you'll see, the new way of doing action sheets also now supports macOS, because they have different ways of handling action sheets, and they're no longer called action sheets. They're confirmation dialogues, as you'll see. Anyway, let's look at a new style alert. Let's say something like at state private var showing alert is false. And then our body, we're going to say button show alert. I'll do showing alert equals true. Attach our alert modifier. Now, there are quite a few of these things now, and they're all quite hard to read in places, but yeah, trust me, it gets worse than that. You can now say directly in here, what are you trying to do? And you can see title is there as a localized string key, a binding for Boolean if it's presented or not, plus our actions. What actions do you want to have in there? And these are regular buttons. That's the power of this new way of doing stuff. There's no more alert button and action sheet button, just regular SwiftUI buttons everywhere with that role. So it knows how to color them successfully and handle them on the screen. Anyway, button. I'll do alert with important message. Binding that is presented of showing alert. And then for my actions, go ahead and make all the buttons you want to. So you might say there's an OK button with a role of cancel with no action code inside. Because by default, all buttons dismiss the alert. And so that makes a standard sort of cancellation button. So I'll go ahead and press Command B. Let's find out how it looks. We should see, boom, okay, great. And just like the old API for alerts, when it goes away, showing alert becomes false again. So it's a two-way binding right there. Now you can provide as many buttons as you want to, and if you don't have any with the cancel role, then an extra one will be added for you automatically, which is great. For example, we might say I want to have multiple buttons here. I want to have, let's do first, doing that, and then second, third, for example. Boom, and that's it. I haven't added a cancel button there, so it'll add one for me automatically. Geraldine, does alert support text fields now? No, it doesn't. As far as I can see, there's no support for text fields still, which is a real shame because this new API is so close to handling text fields, and yet no, it doesn't appear to work with it just yet, which is a real shame. Maybe next year. Anyway, so these are native buttons, which means you can now say this first one here is important. You might say it has a role of destructive, and again, SwiftUI understands the context. It'll say this thing's a bad thing. Make this red. Make it obviously stand out on the screen somehow. Bang. Don't press first. It's bad. The same kind of API rewrite has also come to action sheets, where they're now called confirmation dialogues. And this is great because, of course, macOS doesn't have action sheets. It has dialogues. And so we no longer say action sheet. Well, you still can if you want to have iOS 14 support, of course. But if you want iOS 15 support, then you want to use the new confirmation dialogues. So let's say I want to have showing options is false, and at state private var what I have selected, and I'll just do none by default. Now in our body, well, let's say there's a vstack of stuff like this. I'm going to show their selection in there right now, so it'll be none by default. And then in this button, I'm going to say, please confirm the paint color you want to choose. And I'll do showing options is true. Now, to handle the action sheet, we don't want to use action sheet anymore because that's the old API. Got to use their fancy pants buttons. You've got to not support macOS. We're going to use the new confirmation dialog option here. And there's quite a few of these. They've really gone to town with options here, which is, yeah, I'm not going to go there. It's not ideal, let's put it that way. Confirmation dialog, select the color. Is it presented or not? Well, bind that to showing options. And then just like showing alerts, there's no more fancy pants custom API, just SwiftUI buttons now. So we'll just do button is red. I'll do selection is red. And then copy and paste it a few times. Red, green, and blue, like that. Make them however you want to. You can, if you want to, actually ask it to always show a title. I could say, always show the word, select the color, for example. It's down to you. I might say that, maybe red is bad. So again, role destructive, because it's a standard SwiftUI button. There's no more custom API anymore. It's all the stuff we get to reuse again and again and again, which is great. Hopefully now I can press confirm paint color. There's my options. I'll press blue and it pops blue. So it's a really nice, cleaner way of handling action sheets. It also works well on other platforms. Whew, what else? We've already seen on submit. On submit's really nice because obviously you can navigate through form fields. It might get better in the future, but right now it'll effectively what we had before was, I'll show you an example. We had the ability to say, username is an empty string and password is an empty string. And we might have said something like, in my form, there's a text field called username, bound to username, with onCommit being some kind of function. Username was set, for example. And you do the same thing then for password, perhaps using secure field rather than text field. Password, bound to password. And again, have an onCommit function attached to that. So when you submitted one of those things, it would run your custom code, and you can still do that. But what onSubmit lets you do is take that one level higher. You can take out onCommit here entirely, like this, goodbye, and instead attach that to the form. So when either one of these two things are submitted, run some code of my choosing. So you might say now, well, let's make sure that username is empty, it's not false, and password is empty, it's false, else return, and then print authenticating. So make sure they pass in both values before we submit the whole thing somehow. So onSubmit's really, really helpful with this kind of thing, but grouping multiple submissions together. We used it earlier for navigating through form fields as well, so it's a really nice, clean addition. Menu. Menu's had a lovely upgrade in iOS 15 because this is available in iOS 14 for UIKit. You can now have a primary action for your menus, and so you can distinguish between press and hold to show a list of options to work with, or a quick tap. Do one exact thing right now. So for example, we might say, let's get rid of some code. We might say, there is a menu with the title of options, button, order now, action, I'll do place order, then button, adjust order, action, adjust order, then button, cancel, action, cancel order. And then pass this thing a primary action, what to do when it's tapped quickly, like transient press. In this case, we'll just do the thing, whatever it happens to be, right? And now we can add our functions. We'll say just do it down here, prints button was tapped, so a quick tap, transient tap. Then of course place order, oops, daisy, empty function, and then adjust order, empty, and then cancel order. Door like that, boom. So this primary action distinguishes it from pressing and holding. So when I run this code back, we're going to see options as a button on the screen. And if I hold down, I'm going to see cancel, adjust order, and order now pop up as menu. If I press it quickly, we'll see down here, it was tapped. So you can distinguish between this transient tap and a press and hold, just now the primary action. Cunningly, I know DevPubs crushed it this year. Don't follow their example code. Their example code's been deprecated already. They move really fast, right? There is like two more things I want to show you, perhaps, and then we're done. I know I've ranted quite a lot already. Sorry, I know it's late for a lot of folks out here. Anyway, there is a new way of handling foreground stuff because here, let's go to some code. What time is it? Ooh, 8:45. 9 Pacific. It's late. We can now say that our layouts have a color, but also have styles attached to them. So I could say there's a H stack here with an image. Let's do system name of clock.fill. Then text, set the time. And I'll put this thing into a font of large title.bold. Boom. And I'll give this thing a foreground style, not color, style of quaternary. Now, these were available to us as UI colors in UIKit land. You could say primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary to get different levels of opacity, different levels of emphasis on the screen. And quaternary is one of the most faded. And so when you play this back, you're going to see a very faded H stack. You know, a lot of transparency, whatever's showing through. In our case, it'll be white showing through, so it'll be quite a light grey. All this tertiary, secondary, and primary as well, which is neat. So you can now make the whole thing fade in and out, matching the UI kit sort of emphasis colors. But super clever is there are a whole bunch of other foreground styles to do more advanced things. For example, you might say, actually, primary, secondary, quaternary, that's all well and good. What I want is a linear gradient. And linear gradient, you can now pass in gradient. Pass in all the values you want to work with. So I might say we have, let's do colors of red and black, because I've been watching Les Miserables. Let's do a start point of top and an end point of dot bottom. And now we get linear gradient as a foreground style. And it's really, really flexible stuff. Boom. Beautiful. Super easy to do too. And honestly, it couldn't get much easier, quite frankly, to do these kind of complex effects now. Now, but to do it before, you have to, do a background of your, or a mask, sorry, with your gradient and mask text over it. It was more complex, which is great. Same SwiftUI colors on all platforms now. That's interesting. Is that correct? Really? Background, color, dot. I'm loving mint, by the way. Mint's a lovely color. Really, what I really want to do is color dot background. System background and secondary system background and tertiary background. That's what I want to do because I want the background color sometimes, And anyway, it's late. We'll do one last thing. I know I've ranted a lot so far, and I'll stop imminently, folks. You can get on with the rest of your lives. Something which will make people very, very happy, and I mean over the moon happy, and yet it's so simple, is that you now have limited control over the way your list separators look. You can hide them and you can colorize them, and that's it. This is, of course, a huge improvement, which is great. Kurt, foreground only. That's a real shame. I want to see background stuff too, because the system background's missing, and it really winds me up having to do the binding to UI kit colors behind the scenes. Anyway, list stuff. Yes, let's do a list of 1 to 100 with the index coming in. Index in. Text row index. I'm going to say this thing has list row separator hidden. Do not show the separators, like that. And it'll hide it for that row. And you can also say, actually, I want to have a tint color. So let's do a list row separator tint of red. Also works. There is no way, I believe at this point, to say actually adjust the inset, because clearly that's very hard to do. But we can at least hide them, and we can at least colorize them. Whew. Okay, we have just gone through stacks and stacks and stacks of changes for SwiftUI iOS 15. I didn't make too many mistakes, which is great. Hopefully you have learned a few things along the way. Hopefully you're feeling super psyched about iOS 15 because SwiftUI has seen some significant steps forward. I'm really, really grateful for the team for all their hard work, and also for dev pubs and documenting it all so efficiently. And hopefully you're looking forward to trying it out. And there are some great talks coming up this week on SwiftUI and more. I'm not sure, I haven't seen the full schedule yet, but I hope there's another Luca talk about data. We'll see. But hopefully, that was on, I think, Friday last year. Anyway, if you enjoyed the video, please hit like. Please subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment saying something nice about me and my dogs. I read them all. It does matter to me. So please go ahead and give it a try. Any questions I can answer while did I see Matt's name go by? Matt is so helpful. Matt, honestly, he's been wonderful answering questions from a lot of folks, including me. So thank you so much, Matt. You're a real pal. So that's interesting. So Matt's saying you can now just do background mint, which of course is brilliant by itself, because mint's great. You can. That's great. So that's it being very clever, because before it was obviously complex to figure out what was going on. Which is really, really cool. So that's Xcode getting smarter, or Swift getting smarter, sorry, which is really cool. Anyway, if you have any questions, I can have a go answering them, but we actually have the SwiftUI team in the audience, and maybe they can try answer the questions while they're here. They probably can't because of, reasons and stuff, but if they can, it'd be great, because that would help me out too. Jesse, my dogs are gorgeous. Yes, they are. And they know they are, and they abuse it by coming in and getting treats and doing stuff. Donut asks, is it backwards compatible? I do not believe so. I've seen no evidence here there is any of this is backwards compatible. It's all iOS 15 or later. In fact, I'm still waiting to see what the Swift 5.5 compatibility story is for async await. And it looks like they're maybe trying to back deploy that using Xcode somehow, using some sort of shim library for iOS 14 and 13. I don't know. I have to wait and see, because a lot of folks would really miss that if it wasn't available. Jeff asks, is there a preferred status bar style? No, I looked for that. I haven't seen that anywhere, sadly, which is a real shame. I looked for that straight away, because that's on my list of things I really want to see in SwiftUI. That and text fields and alerts and background colors and similar. Got a little nag list of things I really, really want to see in SwiftUI, and I believe that's currently not available, which is a shame. Dano, why import call location UI? Because I was noodling around. There's a new location button in call location UI. I was just noodling around, exploring it to get a one-off. Where am I right now? And you can actually say, what should it look like? It's like you could say, share my location or send location, and it basically makes a system button that the user understands, and it'll ask them correctly, do you want to share your location once? If it does, you get location, or you can ask for it, sorry, and then it'll work afterwards, and I press it again. That's why it's important. It's not required. I was just noodling around. Ignore it. Julian, Refreshable is not working on scroll view. You're correct. It's not working on scroll view. Maybe it should. I don't know why. I mean, I don't know why it isn't, sadly. So, yeah, we'll see. Is there anything else? Collection views. So I think you're thinking about the tab view with the paging style. I haven't seen any support for the fancy pants orthogonal scrolling, where you can have like little bits hanging off the end, like you can in UI compositional collection view. But naturally, SwiftUI composes, so you could have a scroll view, then a tab view, then something else below. It's not quite as powerful as compositional collection view, but it's still rather nice. Maite, hello Maite, how are you doing? Can I use custom colors on alert buttons? Good question. Should we find out? Wait, alerts like 1 billion years ago, wasn't it? H-stack, set the time. Where is alerts? Menus. Let's do it here, shall we? Let's try and tint this. I think indigo is brilliant, by the way. I love this color. And mint. Oh yeah, whoops, can't do those anymore, can we? Action is meh. Let's find out. Press and hold. No, is the answer. There you go. Okay, so that was a long rant from me, but hopefully you are excited. I certainly am. As you can tell from my general well-being, I am loving it. There's so much going on, and there's a whole week ahead. This is just like scratching the surface of what's happening right now. There's so much happening right now. I'm keen to explore some more tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day to see what other goodies are waiting for us. I have seen, by the way, in UIKit, you can now do bottom sheets correctly. The little pull-up sheets you'll see in maps. I have not seen that in SwiftUI, which honestly, I cry if that isn't there, because that's a wonderful feature in UIKit. It's finally arrived, and if it isn't there in SwiftUI, wait another whole year. No. Anyway, maybe it's there. I haven't seen it yet. I'll have to explore some more. I'm poking around. I'm harassing the SwiftUI team. There are lounges. There are labs. So I'm not getting a lab for tomorrow, sadly. But I'll be in the lounge and chat to folks then. We'll see how it goes. Yes, it's all cool. Oh, good question there from, who was that? Ali Makongo. Will it change the 100 days SwiftUI much? Yes, it will. I'm going to absolutely be re-recording the whole 100 days from scratch to integrate all these new changes, because so much has changed. I want to really get the whole thing bang up to date. So every video, every article will change to reflect that. In fact, in about half an hour, I'm going to push a big update to SwiftUI by example, covering most of what I've talked about. I basically transcribe this video and then put it online as fast as I can. And so that's going to happen tomorrow probably, or tonight in half an hour. We'll see how I get on. It's already 9 o'clock, so we'll see. Have I tried the new Swift Playgrounds? No, I haven't. From what I can tell, it's not actually available yet, which is a real shame. I did ask one of the engineers on Twitter a bunch of questions, and they didn't answer, sadly. They said they can't tell me. So it was things like, can you pull in SPM packages? Can you use Git? Does the macOS version have these new features? I don't know. I want to know as well. Trust me, I'd love to know, because that seems like a really powerful way. I talked about it last year actually with Erica when they launched the macOS Playgrounds. It's a lovely middle ground between full-fat, heavyweight Xcode and Swift Playgrounds, a sort of cartoony, move forward, collect gem kind of thing. And I'd love to see more of that, to really lower the barrier to entry to help more folks ship apps. So yeah, we'll see. Does new search only work on lists? So as I showed you, actually, it requires nothing at all. We attach it to a text field. You can do what you like, and we do it with lists because you do filtering and suggestions and stuff. But you can do text field. I'm sure you can do what you like. It doesn't really matter. Let's take on a couple more because it is getting quite late, folks. I don't hang around too much here. I saw one go by from Eugene. Hey, Eugene. What are my thoughts on Combine? Hasn't gone update this year. That's fine. I mean, Combine's great. Combine's already great. I wouldn't change too much about it as it is. And I think what's going to happen now is folks are going to pause and think, what the heck just happened to Swift? With async await, async let, for await, actors, and more, there's a lot of change in Swift this year. The Swift language, even things like at main actor, for example, there's stacks of things have changed. And things have got better for SwiftUI. Things like you saw how we can do .sidebar rather than sidebar, list style, and the hash if for postfix member expressions, all there and so forth. And also, actually, with SwiftUI particularly, the silent bridging of CG float and double. Oh, yes, last. CG float, be gone, quite frankly. Anyway, there's a lot of Swift churn this year. Swift 5.5 is massive. And I'll do a stream tomorrow, I expect, just on Swift 5.5 because it's so huge. And as a result, I think we've got to take some time to see what's happened, to let folks actually try these APIs out and see what we think of them, see how we work with task and task group and similar, get a feel for them, what works, and then how that plays well with Combine. Because they're different problems, but same kind of problem space at least. And so how our code's going to result in change, I don't know. I think letting it bed in a little bit before trying to monkey around with Combine too much is a good idea. So let's just sit and wait, see how the await foundation changes work before we go ahead and try and change too much of Combine. Anyway, okay, enough from me. Thank you so much for coming along, folks. It's been a pleasure having you here. Please hit a like in the video. Please subscribe to the channel. Leave a nice comment. I do read every one of them. And if you could really help, share the video. I'm here chatting away at 9 p.m. Pacific time on keynote day. Tell your friends you enjoyed the video. Tell them to check it out, and that would mean a lot to me. And I'll see you on Twitter. I am 2straws. You'll see a little URL in the bottom left corner there. hackingwithswift.com/offers. That's there because I have a 50% off sale right now on all my books and bundles. So you can go and learn Swift for less, quite frankly. Go and check it out. I'll see you all on Twitter, hopefully imminently. Have a good night and enjoy iOS 15. Have a great dub DC.